Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today is episode 211 of Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/@2for1 studios. Guys and gals, it is the best place to consume all the content, and if you didn't know, listeners, and let's be honest, you probably did not, we are sponsored by Cowl Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow.
Today, we are talking probably, I would say, my most anticipated movie of the year. It happens to be a Marvel movie, an MCU movie. It happens to be a threequel. It happens to be like a 10-quequel to other things too. And it also happens to star one Hugh Jackman reprising his role as the best there is, Wolverine. And I know there's been a lot of conversation on this podcast for the last 2 years building up to this moment. And we finally got to watch it over the weekend, you and I together. I saw it a total of 3 times. And I'm excited to dive into it. At the very end of this, the last 10, 15 minutes or so, Daniel, I'd like to talk about some of the Comic-Con Secret Wars news we were getting and how that can tie into the larger things. So I have a feeling both of us will be pretty much in the same camp here, but I'll just say this first, is that Deadpool Wolverine, you know, I've heard some people say it's the best movie, one of the best comic book movies ever. And I think it's not that, but you're going to get the most mileage out of this movie depending on your history with these characters.
Sure.
And so because Deadpool it's funny that he's a meta character who can comment on the universe he's in, on the audience watching the universe. This movie is also, its success, I think, is dependent on your history as an audience member in relation to these characters and the history of them in the movies and the comic books, those kind of things. And so, with all that in mind, for me, this movie is like basically a 10 out of 10 for all the things it does and how it comments on my shared history with these characters. So I had a great time with it, and there are just certain things in there that I just cannot stop thinking about and stop, seeing over the internet and smiling about. And so that's my initial impressions. And then for everyone who's listening or watching this will be a spoiler cast. And if you have not seen the movie and you don't want spoilers, please don't watch this podcast yet and come back and hear our thoughts afterwards. Daniel, what are your thoughts on Deadpool Wolverine?
I really enjoyed myself. For me, it's interesting. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Just there's a few things that, I don't know. I guess big picture wise, I think I had a great time. I loved being back with Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. I loved getting to watch him and Deadpool bounce off each other. The plot was fine, nothing really that spectacular. And then just I think the movie just kind of structurally pacing wise was just a little clunky. But I think it gets around that by all of the kind of fan service moments and the fun it has with the characters. And I think it kind of is almost aware of its clunkiness and kind of is like leaning into that to a degree. I really enjoyed it. It's a weird thing where like, I don't think it's the strongest Deadpool movie. You know what I mean? As like a film, or even at a humor level, I don't think it's the funniest for me. And I don't think it's the strongest Wolverine movie, but I think, it was going to be hard to top Logan ever. It's going to be hard for any movie he's ever in to top Logan. I don't care what movie he's in. It's going to be difficult to top Logan. And so I come away from it like I had a great time. It didn't just light my world on fire. You know what I mean? I was kind of hoping it would, but I'm okay. I'm not crushed. I still had a really great time. But yeah, I think I'm a little less hyped about it. I'm a little less in that way about it. I really enjoyed the way it kind of meta commented on like the journey of superhero cinema. You know what I mean? I feel like all we were missing was like cameos from like, the early Batman films and Superman films. And I was like, oh, it's Deadpool. They can break. Now they can. Anyway, Anyway, yeah, all I have to say is
There's been talks about Kevin Feige saying maybe someday there'll be Marvel versus DC. That's been set out in public recently.
I mean, if it will print them money, they'll both do it.
It will at
Absolutely.
some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we die, it will happen, I think.
I mean, I could see that being like that's the last like superhero media has maybe had another lull, but
Yeah.
this is another what. But they didn't expect this. You know, it's a little
Yep.
bit like the announcement we'll get to later of
Yep.
the casting announcement. Where you know, anyway.
Yep.
Anyway, back to Deadpool 3. I really enjoyed it. I want to watch it again. I felt like I probably missed a lot. And I thought it was nice, again, just to have Wolverine back and in the classic suit and the mask and all that kind of stuff. There was definitely a lot of
Yeah.
gratification for a lot of that. So,
Well, that's where again it's almost unfair in some ways. It's like No Way Home. It's like when I suspected that we knew that he doesn't have the mask, obviously from toys. I mean, I have Hot Toys pre-ordered, everything else with the mask,
yeah,
but in No Way Home, I was pretty convinced Tobey Maguire's in the movie, and the
sure.
movie was going to be it could have been dog shit, but if Tobey Maguire showed up for 10
Right.
seconds, I was going to lose my mind. And so it was already Deadpool Wolverine. This is why I'm a special case. If I saw Hugh Jackman in the mask,
Yeah.
I was going to lose my mind. And
Yeah.
so and I did. And then you add in the fact that I am a huge Blade fan, particularly Wesley Snipes Blade fan. Those movies, especially those first two movies, are a huge part of my childhood. And also,
They're a
so
huge part of
again,
superhero history. I mean, they kind
they
of
are.
they saved Fox, right? They gave us the X-Men movies. If we didn't have Blade kind of thing, right? Or
Yeah, I
not
mean,
Fox. Well, but
they were New Line Cinema. So I would say
yes.
Blade, there was Batman 89, Blade is like 96, 97, and then X-Men's like 99, I
I
think.
just remember
So
there was a good YouTube. I think we both watched an old YouTube essay talking about how like the industry at the time and how like the success of Blade gave the industry a reason to take a chance on things like X-Men and things
yeah.
like that. So
I mean,
but anyway, I think Blade
yeah.
being there, I agree, he's iconic and it's fucking Wesley Snipes. You know what I mean? And anytime you get him in a movie, it's just going to be good anyway. But then you get him as Blade, it ups at a new
Yeah,
level.
and there's even things like in Blade Trinity. Ryan Reynolds is in Blade Trinity, and there's been lots of press of like they didn't like each other
about
on
that.
set,
Oh, really?
and then yeah, but I mean, and Wesley Snipes this week said that was kind of made up, and I don't think it was. I think he's just
Their
trying to be.
personalities seem like they could bounce off each other.
Oh yeah, well also Wesley Snipes at the time was a big star, in the '90s he was huge,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds was the opposite. But so then you have that, you have Channing Tatum as Gambit showing up where. This is about
With the accent.
With the accent, and this guy, he was cast in the movie. There was money spent in pre-production, but never got off the ground. And so,
But
you
we
have
did get him.
that.
We got him in Wolverine.
Not him. It was Taylor Kitsch as Gambit, not Channing Tatum as
It
Gambit.
wasn't Channing Tatum?
No, it was Taylor Kitsch.
Huh.
And
I don't
so,
know. My mind Mandela affected that into being that was Channing Tatum.
oh no, different guy. So you have that. You have Elektra from the Daredevil series, and you have, of course, Chris Evans back as Human Torch, which it's sad for me in my head canon to be like, oh, he died. But because
Sure.
I do like those movies, like they're not the greatest movies, but they're also a particular time in my life.
Sure.
But again, it's just all those things are not going to work for someone. And let's use Kim Lee as an example, who does not care about these characters, who does not watch these movies. And so there's this meta commentary on that, and seeing, and like they saved the mask for the end, right? And we're jumping around here, but I'm just talking about how it works. Is for me is that the mask comes on, and they know they're saving it for the end. They know for me in the audience, like it's like for Donovan, they're like, we got to put the mask on at the end. He's going to be most interested in that, and we're going to make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
And so like for me, the mask coming on, I mean, just I don't know what it is, but when Hugh Jackman talks when he's wearing the mask, it's like my brain just can't I can't comprehend it, and it's been such a big deal for me for the last 20 years of like him not wearing the mask. And so stuff like that, that's why it works for me. That doesn't mean it's those things should not mean it's a great movie. I think it means it's a great experience for people like me.
Sure.
On the other side of it, I think on a plot level, it's about as good as the other two. I mean, the other two are
Sure.
not. So we
Especially,
had
I would
this,
say Deadpool 2. I think Deadpool 1's a bit tighter still. It's just such
sure,
a tight
tight,
movie.
tighter,
And the
yes.
plot is streamlined to a point that it makes it really easy to follow. And like
Yeah,
I think Deadpool 2 and Wolverine a bit are just sometimes it's going at such a fast pace and we're going everywhere that there
yeah.
is a little bit of just muddiness in the plot that I don't think we
Well,
get in Deadpool 1.
well, I think Deadpool 2 might be the most kind of complicated one, but just
Sure.
because of what's happening time travel wise. But
Yes.
I do think all three of them share this thing where if you strip all the jokes and everything all away, the references, all that stuff, they're very basic. The first one, I gotta save my or get revenge and save my girl. The
Mm-hmm.
second one, I gotta save this kid. The third one, I've got to save my family. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
they're
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
like these Avengers level plots, right? Or these
Right.
or even
The
Captain America
stakes
Winter
are
Soldier
personal.
or even Iron Man. They're not like that. They're very different that way. So I think as a
I
trilogy,
like that.
it really works. And again, they get a lot of leeway because of their ability to be meta.
Yeah.
If you take Deadpool and put him in the Avengers, he's going to have to be like the Hulk, right? He's going to be used very sparingly
Yeah.
because that character is not going to be able to flourish like he can in his own movies for obvious reasons. But anyway, I think the movie works for fans of the series and
For
fans who are
sure.
waiting for a lot of things. Even just seeing Hugh Jackman in all his variants, his short variant, the
Yes.
like him in the classic Incredible Hulk 340 cover when he pops the claws and Wolverine's in the reflection.
Is that the
Um,
brown suit he was wearing?
which I almost like more in the movie. I was like, holy
It
shit,
looks
that
really
looks
good. The brown looks
it
really
looks
good.
it looks almost
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he pops those claws there, that's and I had the comic, and I have mine CGC'd inside by Tom McFarlane,
Oh,
but
wow.
it's popped and it's like his reflection, and I bet money, I haven't checked it yet. I bet my comic tripled or doubled in value over the weekend because
Oh,
of that.
yeah.
And it
Probably
was
so.
already one of my most valuable comics. And so I need to look that up. But so just seeing that and he's on the X, that's a famous X-Men comic book
I was
cover.
assuming so. Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
had to
and so
be.
all these things, are just like all these references that someone like me are going to get that other people are not going to get. So I'm like probably
Right.
top tier going to get the reference. You're like right
Yeah.
below that,
I am. Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
and like, but
I'm gonna get all the movie references, but a lot of the
yes,
comic ones are gonna go over my head. But I could recognize I think it's like the X
yeah,
thing. I'm like that's super cool. I don't want to know like the backstory of why he's tied up with a bunch of skulls around him. You know what I
why
mean?
is he
Like
Jesus? Yeah,
right, yeah. So I think I that is part of the movie I really loved, and I think that's what I've loved throughout the Deadpool movie is that it does pay homage to things that don't get as much spotlight or things that
yeah,
we don't make the cut necessarily with the movies. And I think and I think it's such a great way because like you're able to pay homage to comic like series or stories, comic storylines that really may never be able to be fully done on screen, but at least we can like reference them and hey, and there is a universe where this is the reality. Yep. And it's kind of cool. I mean, in theory it brings those versions of realities into the MCU, you know what I mean? Like
right,
those are
yeah.
now a part of the MCU multiverse. Is there's a reality with those versions of Logan in it and those versions of like the X-Men story in it. So I think that's cool.
Well, I think it's let's piggyback off that. One of the big questions we had in this is like, okay, is this a version of just before Logan happens in terms of the
Right.
same Wolverine? Is this a variant, whatever? And they kind of gave us answers before him, but we didn't 100% know. And ironically, I went back and watched like their announcement when Hugh and Ryan are on the couch and they're talking about it, right? And they said, we're not going to touch Logan. We're not touching it. And literally the opening of the movie is Deadpool touching the corpse of Logan.
Well, it's like,
And
I
so,
wouldn't defile the
yes,
corpse or like whatever he says about like honoring Logan's memory. And then,
yeah.
yes, he digs up the body and kills a bunch of people with his bones, his metal adamantium skeleton.
So now when you watch Logan, like, oh, Deadpool's going to come and dig up that grave pretty soon or soonish. But it's incredible
Yeah,
though. Again, of like when I'm watching it, I'm like, they actually did this. Like this is the choice they made, and it's a kind of a brilliant choice.
it
Like I think
is.
it works. And
Because there are going to be people that were pissed at Logan was perfect and you're, blah, blah, blah. And I think to just
take the
go
piss out
for
of
it
it.
and just to be like, yeah, we are, and we're gonna have fun with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's just, I think it's fantastic.
But I think
I also
one
love
thing-
the thing where he's digging him up. He's like, you are not dead. That is not how regeneration works. And he's like digging him up. Then he's like, oh, he's really dead.
he's really gone.
That was, but that whole regenerate, because he has the same powers too. I just thought that was really funny.
Well, one thing I think the movie does do, like you gotta, if you really think about all these X-Men movies, right?
Yeah.
If you really watch them, Logan, he does not have the Hugh Jackman kills it every time he's in those movies. But there's never a moment, in my opinion, that's kind of like, besides Logan, take Logan out for a second, that's like the campfire scene where he's talking to X-23 about he let his whole team down, right? Also, brilliant idea to make the reason why he's wearing the costume a story point.
You're talking
Brilliant
about
idea.
the emotional point of his.
Well, yeah, the emotional point of like him talking, having like a monologue where he's talking to X-23 about letting his universe down, right? And that feels like that moment is kind of more of a branch off Logan in terms of using the character of Logan as more of an emotional vehicle than a quippy guy in like the first X-Men movies, right?
Yeah, but
And
even
so-
I feel like he was quippy, but like X2 and X3, I mean, like it's his heartbreak story, right? It's his like it's the story of him losing Jean, right? Like I feel like those movies really become about him more than him and Jean at that point. I do think
they do, but I'm saying
to a
like
degree that doesn't. Sometimes it's too sappy in those movies. Like they kind of went a little bit overboard. I feel like.
Well, I think 3 is a little too melodramatic, but I think, and I still enjoy parts of it. But I'm saying, but I think what I'm trying to say is like it feels like they were trying to really give him some more meat because of Logan.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Without Logan, I think it would have been a less emotional Wolverine in this movie. And
It's
I
like
think
now that we've seen him that way, it's like that's the best version. And I think, in some ways it's true for a film, for a protagonist role, the best version is one that's got a little more heart to him, a little more that we can connect to. And so maybe you're right that like, yeah, if we hadn't had this version of Logan that we all like wanted to be our dad, we may not have, gotten this a little more wears his heart in his sleeve version.
Yeah, he's the dad you need, not the dad you want, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. And maybe people can push back on that, but I think we don't get this without Logan. And I love this version of the character. I think it's kind of brilliant to be like, okay, that's the best Logan, and then this is the worst Logan. Like,
I was a little confused. So is the backstory that the Sentinels killed the X-Men, so then he just started murdering humans, and now everyone hates him? Is that the backstory?
Yeah, I think it was A, he didn't get there in time, and then B, he started killing bad guys and good guys, and so everyone is kind of like, you're not welcome here, like they're kind of
okay, interesting.
But they can't do anything about him because he's Wolverine. But but apparently
it's interesting then how much the bar people were just like, fuck you. I know you've murdered thousands of people and might kill me. It's fine. I'm being nitpicky, but it was a little bit like they were being a bit rude to a mass murderer that could kill them at any second. But that's
I mean, he made the comment where he's like, he can talk to me that way, because I think this is a Wolverine that everyone in that bar knows this guy's given up, but they can't kill him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
He's literally invincible, right? Yeah.
He's like they can push him around because they know he's so broken, but they also can't do anything about him because he's invincible. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where it is a complicated beat to pull off for sure.
Well, I do think it was a little like how they doled out his backstory. I had a little bit trouble. Like I honestly feel like we could have gotten a flashback in there to make it a little more clear what actually happened on the day. And I think, I don't know. I just think that part was the only part that was just a little muddy for me. Just I wasn't clear exactly what happened. I knew he's obviously fucked up, but like I think if they had gone a little harder on that and like really like shown him fucking up and shown him as that Wolverine he used to be, that was the worst Wolverine, that could have made his like arc a little stronger as far as him becoming a good Wolverine. Because it was mostly just them just telling us he was a bad Wolverine. I think I could have used a bit more of like, but show me what that means. Like I want to see blood crazed Logan like stabbing a good guy. Honestly, You know what I mean?
Well, we did see like a more comic accurate Old Man Logan in the movie when he's like on the porch with the shotgun. Like that's from the comic Old Man
Oh,
Logan,
sure.
100%.
Yeah.
But I think they should have done that story where, and they could have because we're in the MCU now, where you see Jake Gyllenhaal Mysterio. Basically, what he does is
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he makes the X-Men look like Sinister Six, and Wolverine kills them all. And then
Yeah.
Mysterio's like, and he's like, actually, you just killed all your friends and family. And he goes
Yeah.
crazy. And he basically just like loses it all. Like he just goes.
There
He's
is a
depressed.
version of this where he's like having to bring like it's not dejected Wolverine, it's like man like he's become an animal. And like Deadpool has to like get him like rehabilitate him. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
I like it's this thing of like what they have works. It works. And like maybe we're
It does
trying
work.
to spend too much time on something that wouldn't add that much to the movie. But that is the one
Yeah.
part where I just think I really wanted to see why he was the worst Wolverine and like feel it. I wanted to feel it. I want to see him and I wanted to see it in his eyes the moment he realized he was the worst Wolverine. You
Yeah.
know, kind of like all we
Sure.
needed was like a pullback shot of him like standing in a circle of bodies and just like the realization on his face. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's fine.
No,
I'm being nitpicky.
Yeah. I think ultimately it works. I think where that character ends up at the end, like the movie ultimately is a feel good movie, and
It is, yeah.
which is I think great. Like I
Yeah.
like my movies to end on a positive note, and I like to feel good leaving the movie theater. It's why I watch movies to begin with, and so for in that sense it works for me. I do want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the plot and more particularly some of the things about how I think this will tie into Secret Wars, of course, but also it just they commented in the movie, right? Like Nice Pulls, like it's been steadily good since Endgame, and then they're kind of taking the piss out of it where, this is not
Yes.
the multiverse is like it's not as been as great as things pre Endgame, right? And we kind of know that it's
Yes.
been kind of convoluted. There's Disney Plus shows, there's
And
all
Disney
kinds of
can't
stuff.
deny it anymore just at a financial perspective. They can't deny they're making less money. They can't deny
Well,
that they're losing more money. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
like I appreciate Disney being okay with that, I guess. That those kind of jokes.
Yeah.
Because I think
Well,
there
it
is
was yeah. Interestingly, sidebar, Jamie Lee Curtis made a comment about the
saw
MCU
this.
not being like good. When I watched her comment, it was who cares? It's her opinion. She can have an opinion on
Yes.
whether something is good or not. Apparently, the internet took her to church, and
I saw
she
she
made
made some apology and then Ryan retweeted was like, we're supposed to apologize for this now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, and that's another example of like I'm glad he said that because it's true.
It's
And then
true.
also, yeah, and then
But
B, it's another meta commentary on like his character in the movie,
well, and I will say, and I saw a comment on a Reddit post that I thought was funny, is like people living in Borderlands houses shouldn't throw stones, and they were like,
Oh.
yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, she's a great actress, but she has been in a bunch of shit movies, like just bad Halloween sequels. You know what I mean? So like or Friday the 13th or whatever she was, so like I can like that's fine, but like let's not pretend like you're a stranger to like money grabbing franchise sequels. And to be fair,
Yeah,
I think
but
you've been in more worse ones than the
she
MCU
said,
has
yeah,
produced worse
she
ones.
said a one-word comment. She said no. She said what or bad. She said bad. She said what they said, what phase is Marvel in right now? Meaning like is it phase 5, 6, or 7? Because it's trivia. And she said bad. That's all she
I
said.
think that's actually pretty funny. I'm mad that
It
they
is.
got
It
mad
is
at her for
funny.
that. I like that she said that.
And it's the truth. Like compared to all the
Yeah.
other ones, this is not the best phase, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
most fans would agree. They don't have their head up their ass. Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's
agree.
embarrassing that she felt the need to like apologize
I,
to Kevin Feige.
I felt.
I hope
I
Kevin
bad.
was like, Jamie Lee, you're allowed to do this, but like I don't give a fuck, and I know you're just doing this for the PR. Let's
hope
just
so
talk
too.
about something else because this is so fucking stupid. Like I
I
hope that
agree.
was how the
I
conversation
really hope that's the
went.
conversation too. Yeah, 100%. Okay, back to Deadpool. So the movie is apparently now because one thing the multiverse saga has done is constantly introduce new plot points of how the
Right,
TVA operate, how the
right.
multiverse operates, and I am having a harder time to grasp it than I did 5 years ago. And I can only imagine other people who are not as invested as me figuring this out. So now I guess there's a thing called an anchor being, and once your anchor being dies in your universe, the universe starts slowly disintegrating, sounds like a really raw deal, and which it sounds like a really bad deal. Like at the end of the day,
Is this similar? I mean, like it sounds so similar, and they talked about it in WandaVision about
Nexus being.
Nexus. I mean, is it the same thing? If Wanda died, would this and like they're beings that can like control or like operate in multiple realities or whatever the definition of that is. Like I feel like why did and maybe they will. Maybe like, oh yeah, it's the same thing. And like, you know, if Wanda had died, our 616 would have disintegrated. But like it's really
convoluted. 100% the Nexus being of the sacred timeline is Tony Stark, Iron Man, and Endgame.
That's 100%. But the timeline didn't start disintegrating as soon as it died.
It takes like 2,000-3,000 years before it starts disintegrating. That's what they said. So
then why was his universe disintegrating when did that make
the Succession guy said it takes 2,000 to 3,000 years for your universe to disintegrate. And Deadpool says, "Oh, okay, we got plenty of time." He said,
and then we're speeding it up. Yes.
He said, "I don't like to do. I can do a mercy kill." That's what he said. I like to, if it's going to die, I want to kill it right now. So that was his reasoning, right? So that's the thing. So there's no universe, fair. Especially after the news we got over the weekend that Tony Stark is not the Nexus being. He has to be, right? He's the main one who died in Endgame, and also he is the chosen one of the MCU, right?
You could argue that it could be Cap. You could argue that it could be. I mean, like there are arguments for others. I mean, like for one, it's like how do you? We've been given no criteria in terms of how to determine who these people are.
Well, Cap's not dead yet, as far as we know. But
we don't know that 616 has started disintegrating, right? Like
we don't know that, but I think it was put in there for a reason.
Sure. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Like sure.
It seems too convoluted of a plot point to put in there to not pay off later. And that's just anyway. That's why.
I mean, like it is like in some ways it's like it's not the MacGuffin, but it's like it's the thing that begins the plot is the fact.
Yeah, and it could be another
this is the reason he has to go find Wolverine, and so it could just be that like this is what they came up with to justify the plot of the movie because that's what it does. It's the inciting incident, right? It's the thing that kicks off the movie. But I agree, it is like we're adding another vocabulary word to our spelling list, Marvel. You know what I mean? Like and like. Yeah. I could barely remember the last ones and like I think it's just I hope that they do end up being like Nexus beings whatever they said. What was the one about this one, what was it called? Anchor beings same thing. I really hope they do that because like at this point it's like, well, who's the president of this universe and who's the vice president anchor being? You know, it's just like, do we have like a bureaucracy of like Anchor and Nexus and Plexus beings or whatever the fuck?
Well, I felt like Anchor being or Nexus being, I feel like Nexus being was someone who was of extreme power in the universe, someone that could transcend, their power could leak into the multiverse kind of thing. Sure. And so there's the power of the Scarlet Witch. So, but I think the Anchor being is someone that the universe, it is a weak thing. I wish it
and it's like, it only works with Wolverine because he's invincible. He doesn't die. He doesn't age. But at that, like, does the anchor being not exist until that person is born, and then their lifetime after that they just die a natural death, and then we're on a clock for 2,000 to 3,000 years?
So it feels like. I mean, at the end of the day, the movie tells us like apparently if you're important or you save your universe or something like that, then you can become the anchor being of your universe. So you can replace that
because Deadpool became the one for his or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like they both do. Or Deadpool is they replace Logan basically as their anchor being, and which is again it's flippity floppity goopity gop plot stuff, right? I only bring it up because I wonder if it will tie into something later with Tony Stark. Again, it feels too convoluted. I don't know how they're going to in the present. I actually have a feeling I know what's going to happen with like Doomsday and those which we'll get into, but I want to talk about Logan or Deadpool Wolverine just a little bit longer.
Dr. Doom.
So we have that right with the TVA. We have Cassandra Nova, who is basically just evil Charles
I've
Xavier.
Heard that name before. I'm guessing that's just from comic references and stuff.
Yeah, she's pretty bad in the comics, and you know, people are complaining about the villain, and I get it. She's not the most fleshed out villain, but also
I actually thought she did a pretty good job acting, though. Like I thought the actress was good, and it wasn't the most It wasn't the most fleshed out role. I do think she kind of was like kind of a villain, but then just by the end, it was just a little weak. I think how they making her like end up on a warpath or whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
But I thought she acted well, and I thought, I liked going to Limbo or wherever they were, kind of in
The
the
Void.
end.
Yeah.
The Void. It was, and I liked the whole like Mad Max thing she had going on.
That was kind of brilliant. His line about, oh, it's Alioth from Loki season 1, episode 5.
Yes, yes,
That's
that
kind
was
of
good.
brilliant.
It's
'cause
great.
It is like it's so specific, and also it's like you're right. This is, I mean, it's another callback of this is getting kind of convoluted, right?
Yeah, well, it's just it's like the most straightforward way to like, because like in every other line, so like there would be a character that was like there and be or like a TVA person is watching and they're like, that's the thing that almost killed Loki. You know what I mean? Like that's how we tell the audience what this is to remind them so they're not confused. But
Yeah.
then we're like, no, it's just that from the episode of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like
Kind
that.
of-
I like the
kind
like
of brilliant. Yeah.
it's just let's just cut the bullshit. That's what that's
Yeah.
from. You know?
Yeah, it is. But I think the meat of this movie again is not about the plot. It's not about the goopity gop that they're throwing in there.
No.
It's about Deadpool, Wolverine, and their interaction. It's the odd couple. It's planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
It is Midnight Run. It's these two characters and them bouncing off each other, and just in getting to see two actors who are born to play these roles have fun. And that's what the movie is. And if you're looking for more than that, on maybe there's threads that will leak into Secret Wars or Doomsday or whatever, but at the end of the day, I think this is just supposed to be a celebration of the Foxverse and the end of the Foxverse, obviously with the post credit kind of docu tag we had. And at the end of the day, if you're looking for more than that, you might be disappointed. But if you're someone like particularly me, if your name's Donovan Thompson, you're gonna have a good time watching it. So
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a fun movie. It goes by quick. It doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome. There's good jokes throughout. I loved all the Deadpools, of course, and that I loved that I'm guessing that wasn't his wife in the actual suit, but doing the voice of Lady Pool was Blake. I also love that he mentioned her.
I think she was in the suit. I think
really?
I read
Okay,
this week
wow.
she was in the suit. Yeah.
And she did not have to be. So that's
She did not have to be.
Maybe there's deleted scenes where she takes her mask off or something. But I also loved that, like earlier when Wolverine and Deadpool are arguing, he's like, "I'm telling Blake like about something." I can't remember what it was, but it was great.
I mean, there's so many good moments in that movie. Even when like Wolverine takes Deadpool to church, he's like, you couldn't even get a stripper back, and then he's the first character to make Deadpool shut up. And Deadpool says, "I'm going to fight you now." And like when he punches him, like the look on his face is like, "Oh, you fucking didn't." It's so good. They're in and they do a good job of just letting these characters kind of just be, I think, the best version. Like I like Logan. To me, and I like Logan. I like what it does. It's not the best Old Man Logan story, but I like that movie a lot. I love it. I cried multiple times. We've talked about it multiple times. To me, that is not the best version of that character we've got in the comics.
Yeah, in some ways, it's a deconstruction of
a deconstruction
of him. Let's push this character to the limits and remove everything that like made them who they were and what happens kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think that's what's interesting about it. But you're right. We don't want Old Man Logan in every movie. That doesn't make sense.
We don't.
And it's just not, it doesn't work.
It doesn't. But when you see him put the cowl on and he says, "Oh, you save the good stuff for last," and he said, or for special occasions, he says mostly killing. Like that's Wolverine. Like that is the version of the character I've always wanted. Yeah. And it's hilarious. He's like, watch the wind resistance on those blowjob handles. And I know. But his response is like he just kind of grunts at him and looks at him in the cowl. Yeah. That's Wolverine. That is Wolverine.
Yeah.
And so if you've been wanting that to me, the most comic accurate version of the character so far, it's this one.
For sure.
Someone who's kind of hates himself. He's wearing the suit, but he's got it.
And I'm trying to remember the line. Maybe it's in Days of Future Past or whatever, but at some point Hugh Jackman has a line like, "What did you want? Yellow spandex?" Like I'm
X-Men
trying to remember.
1.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Scott says to him.
Oh, that's right. He gives him the uniform, and and then Scott. I guess it's Scott's line. What did you expect?
Yes, yeah. What do you expect? And then they flipped it in X-Men '97. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah, there.
Yeah.
But no, it is nice getting it finally on, and I think um, it looks really cool. I thought the suit looked really awesome. I do think the mask, the cowl, to me, it did look a little funky on his head to me. Like it made his head look almost too tall for me, and I was just like, just push it down a little more, just push it, cover your nose all the way. I know I'm being picky, but like I think I watch it and I'm like, I love this, but I also understand why we haven't seen it till now, kind of thing.
Hey,
You know,
I
like
get back in '99, they're like, this is not going to work. There's no way we can make this work.
it does look a little funky. It doesn't look practical in the way that a lot of the modern designs of superhero suits, they try to make them more practical.
It doesn't make any sense as to why he would wear that look.
He doesn't need protection
for tactical reasons.
unless it has like a spider, iron spider, like data readout, which it could. I love that it happened. It's one of those things where like, okay, I get why we haven't been able to make this mask work.
Yeah,
like it's hard to do it it works in a Deadpool film. I don't know if it works in a super serious, like gritty.
Shut your fucking mouth.
it's gonna work. So
I'm not sure. Do you think we're gonna? I mean, we may see it again, but I don't know if it's gonna be like his outfit in the future.
If we don't, it's okay. Jumping ahead a smidge. Secret Wars. If I don't see Tobey Maguire in his suit and Hugh Jackman in a version of this suit, and Tony Stark, I'm going to punch him in the fucking dick because I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, it makes no sense. Why would you do that to us? So yeah, it's going to happen. I think the suit looks the best. There's this one shot I shared in the group chat.
Yeah.
When he's looking at, and I love that moment, by the way, when they hold hands, and it's just a cool thing. The music, Madonna's playing, but whenever he looks over at him, and just the way Hugh Jackman's like profile, the suit, like I can't get over it. I don't know what it is about it. Like his smirk he has, and like some of the shots at the end when he's just talking, like I don't know what it is, but I had a hard on for Hugh Jackman beforehand, but now it's like I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, Daniel.
Yeah.
So I personally love it. I get it. There's a few, and there's even some like CGI shots of like full blown Wolverine is CGI when they jump out of the bus at the end. And you're kind of like, that's kind of odd, but it works. And also that's Hugh Jackman. Like he got in that good of shape again at the end of the movie.
And he is like what 50 years, whatever old. I mean, like
he's 55, I think, at the time of shooting.
That's wild. That's wild. That he looks like that at 55.
It's crazy. And it's brilliant.
And has done it multiple times in his life. It's not like he's just like kept it at this level this whole time. It's like he goes back and forth.
Better
makes
shape.
sense. I mean, being in that shape all the time would probably be like a full-time job.
He was not that as good a shape in X-Men 1, 2, or 3. It wasn't until
he was a twig compared to this. He got he got bulky finally in Origins. Yes.
Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna get ripped, and he did. And then
the scene
kept it.
It's weird because like it's Origins, but like the scene of him coming out of the bathtub with the claw is still like fucking awesome. The shot
it's god tier superhero shape, and also everything about that screams Logan to a T. That shot does.
Yes.
Origins
was weird for me because like I loved Logan so much that I like convinced myself I thought the movie was decent. It was just the CGI that was the problem.
No.
But I've watched it later and I was like, oh, okay. But like, man, I wish that movie had been good. Like I like that was one of the movies I was so hyped for. Like we're getting a Logan standalone movie. Yeah. Oh my God. And then that happens.
I remember walking out of the theater, and I remember seeing Matt at school the next following Monday and just us trashing that movie, which was hard for us because we were, that was our thing.
Wanted to like it. Yeah.
We wanted to like it a lot. And I mean, Deadpool in that movie is a perfect example of what not to do with a character, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I loved what was it in the docu little thing after it, they had Ryan Reynolds like commenting on getting to play Deadpool and Wolverine, didn't they? Like how excited he was and like how it was like he loved this character and he can finally be it, and then they did that to him.
And they did that to him.
And he was so cool until like his scene in like the beginning when they're all like going on that mission, whatever. Deadpool was fucking awesome. He's Deadpool.
Apparently had a superpower where he could like do swords super insanely fast. But yeah, that was like, you know, he's like,
Oh,
he
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But I mean, whatever. I agree. I like the character, and you know, yeah, and yeah, that's a whole other podcast. That's talking about X-Men Origins Wolverine. Um, but I kind of want to dive more into uh some of the other announcements we had over the
Yeah.
weekend, right? So Deadpool and Wolverine is a big thing for Comic-Con on Thursday night. And of course, Saturday they rolled out three movies, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and Captain America,
They showed a
Brave New
trailer,
World.
right? It didn't go for Fantastic Four, but they didn't. It's not one that was
I've
online.
I've seen it. I've
Okay.
seen it. It was yeah, it was like basically pre-footage they shot. They started officially shooting this past Tuesday
Yeah, I was
or
like, it
Monday.
couldn't be much. It is more like a teaser, surely,
Well,
than a
it was
trailer.
it felt like the stuff they shoot like for to play on TV screens in the back of the movie when characters are walking by. That's what it felt like. Like here's a seminar of Reed teaching kids school, and this is like
Oh,
something that plays in the
interesting.
background while they're walking, kind of
Right,
thing.
right, right. Sure.
That's what it felt like. So you get to hear the voices, and they had stuff like that. They did show Galactus though. Like they had like a kind of a previs, I'd say 80% done
What does he look
shot of
like?
Galactus. Looks like Galactus. I mean, he looks like the comic book Galactus. Like him looking through a skyscraper building. Like, I mean, he's gonna be tearing up some
And
skyline
giant?
somewhere. Yeah, he's like a smaller version of an Eternal, basically. Um,
Yeah.
you just see his eyes, but they did have like a drone show of Galactus out there, and you saw kind of.
And we haven't gotten any version of Galactus, right, before?
No, we got in Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Okay, but he was a
We
planet.
he was a cloud or something. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then,
yeah.
but he looks a lot like the Eternal they fought in, or the whatever it was
Tiamat.
they fought in Eternals.
Yeah, well, Tiamat I think is coming out of the Earth, which we'll get in Brave New World. I can't think the Eternal's name that they basically like. He just pisses off at the end of the movie. Um,
Yeah,
but I think they're going to model him off a version of kind of aesthetically them,
yeah,
but he will have the horns, the purple, all that good stuff. Anyway, so we had those three movies. I don't really want to dive into those so much. I want to talk about obviously the big news, and we kind of talked about this privately beforehand. There
yep.
was rumors that the Russo brothers were going to be coming back. They were announced to come back with the title Avengers 5 is now Avengers Doomsday in May 2025, and then in
Just
20,
dang soon.
which is dang soon. They're
I mean,
starting shooting
I saw
in
they're
January.
starting to film in like February, so they're
Yeah, or
they're gonna
January, yeah.
shoot and edit a movie in 5 months.
Well, they shouldn't. Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, they'll be editing during, and they're. I mean,
But
as
still,
you,
that seems like for a big Hollywood film, that just seems like a wild turnaround for a Marvel movie.
I will be very surprised if they keep the release date for one.
Yeah,
I think it'll
yeah.
be pushed back a year. Both of them will be personally, but if you look, I mean, how the system works now. I mean, we saw a shot of the Fantastic Four movie of Galactus looking through a skyscraper, and the movie didn't start shooting till this Monday. You know what I'm
Sure,
saying? So
but
like,
I mean, but especially with this, it's like CGI can take months to get right. You know
they've
what I
already
mean?
probably started. They've already started
Sure,
that.
you're
you
right.
know?
You're right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think you're right. They're probably doing all that now, and they're just not shooting until later. But
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, I mean, like that does seem like wildly fast. I mean, it's exciting. I hope they can do it, and it's good. I'd love.
I don't know
I'd love
how
it.
they can, but we will see.
Yeah,
I'm very,
I'm
very,
doubtful.
I am too. But of course, also, I think it was Stephen McFeely or Stephen. I can't always get their names mixed up. It's Stephen something and Marcus McFeely. So Stephen, I think he was tasked to come back to do some rewrites for Doomsday and or just rewrite the whole thing, period, for Doomsday and
Yeah.
Secret Wars, right? So of course the big mic drop for the weekend, I'm sure everyone knows by now, is that Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU, but not as Tony Stark, but as Victor Von Doom.
Mm-hmm.
And there is I mean, I have looked at polls, I have looked at comments, I have tried to get a pulse of at least the comic book community, the people who comment on things,
Yeah.
of what they're thinking of. And I wish I could say it was mixed. It feels like it's more vitriol than not. But again, this is the comic book community. What are your thoughts on it? I think I already know about like the audience tonight.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting choice. Very left field. It does reek a little bit of desperation. Just a little bit. I mean, we just killed RDJ, and he was kind of like, "I'm done with superhero movies. I want to become a actor." And then I guess he's already done with that, which is fine. I mean, he won his Oscar, so I mean,
He
what is
also never said that.
Sure,
He's
it
never
was
said
implied or
those
like
words.
assumed or something, maybe.
Yeah, but he never said that. People keep
Sure.
saying like he went off to he didn't want to do it anymore, went to win an Oscar. It's like, no, he never said that.
Well, he did say he was kind of like maybe ready to be done at some point. Like I feel like there was comments from him and Chris Evans like, yeah, it's been like 10 years of this. We might need a break or something kind of thing. Like
I
before
think
Endgame.
more Chris Evans than him, but
Sure.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, if it works, it works. You know what I mean? If they
I
do
agree.
it right, RDJ's RDJ. He's a power actor. He's going to steal the scene, every scene he's in. And
Academy Award winning actor.
if he had not been casted as Tony Stark, that would be a great casting as Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom. You know what I mean? Like
It would
even
be.
just if he was never, it'd be like, oh, we love this. It's perfect. It all depends on how they do it. I mean, the execution here is key. I mean, it literally is a difference between it working and not working. If they execute and they make it a really interesting, why is RDJ Doctor Doom? Is this a different universe where he's not Tony Stark? He's literally just Victor Von Doom with the same face, a la Quicksilver kind of situation, which I
Human
hope not,
Torch?
because that was stupid anyway. Or Human Torch, right? Or is it, I mean, I've seen some speculation that he's still going to be Tony Stark, but he's going to be like Superior Iron Man and become like basically like drop the Iron Man persona to become Doctor Doom. Like, you know what I mean? Honestly, I don't know which I prefer. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be good. I want it to not feel forced. I want it to not feel shoehorned. And I want to believe that RDJ is Doctor Doom or whatever. Like, I don't want it to feel like I'm watching Tony Stark cosplay or something like that. And those are all not straightforward things to do. It's not like, you know what I mean? That those all happening are a complex of multiple factors and multiple people all getting it right. And so it's a little scary because it's like, if this doesn't work, like if they do drop the ball, we might be getting a real break from superhero media, at least from Marvel. Like, you know what I mean? Because it is, we're bringing back the fan favorite, the golden child of the MCU, other than Chris Evans, and it just, it's weird thing of like, part of me likes it, part of me is afraid that it won't work and that this will feel forced and that this will just honestly tank the universe a bit more. But I want it to work. I love the Doctor Doom character. I want to, I've always said we need a really strong actor in that role. I think we've always, I think a lot of us were hoping that, like, part of me is like, well, you did this with Tony. Could we not have just done this with frickin' Hannibal? You know what I mean? Like, because, he was the villain in Doctor Strange 1. I'm blanking on his name. But, like, to me, I'm like, he's a really good actor, too. And he's not as recent. And, like, people kind of felt like he was wasted in his other role. So, like, it would maybe feel a little bit more like, oh, well, this makes sense. Yeah, wait, what's the actor's name? I can't think of the actor's name.
His name is Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen. I mean, he even has a name that sounds like he comes from a country where Doctor Doom could come from, like Latveria. What is it?
Latveria. No,
that sounds like the name of someone that could live in Latveria. Mads Mikkelsen. So like
him or Cillian Murphy would be perfect.
Oh my
casting.
God. I mean, I don't think Cillian would ever do it, but like if they could get him to do it, it would be like that. That would be fantastic.
He was Scarecrow in Batman, all the Batman movies. I mean, he would do it.
Yeah, but it was a Nolan movie. That was a Nolan movie.
He would do it. It's not like I know we have this vitriol of the MCU lately, but it's not like they just crossed $30 billion over 33 films last weekend.
Sure, but it could just be like they don't want to work on he doesn't want to work on giant studio projects like that all the time or something like that. I mean, like it may just be I just filmed Oppenheimer.
But he doesn't. That's not. Yeah, I mean, it's sure. I that's another conversation. But
sure.
I
mean, it would be a great casting if they had gotten him.
Yes, been great. Yeah, and so I think one thing, kind of talking about the state of the MCU. they've had a big win over the weekend, right? Right now it's the $600 million mark in
Yep.
6.5 days, and it will hit $1 billion. We'll see how far it can go. I don't think it'll get past 1.3 probably, or 1.2. We'll see what happens. I hope I'm wrong. It's rated R film. That's a huge thing, right?
Absolutely.
It's a win for Disney and for Marvel.
Yes, absolutely.
They have to keep it going. They have Captain America, Winter Soldier, or sorry, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four. Even if they don't make a lot of money, they have to be critical darlings almost. They have
They have to
to.
nail it.
They have to, at least on the fan side, they have to nail it. And I hope money wise it follows, but they can't. It can't be a Captain Marvel. It can't be even a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Even it may have made a lot of money.
Or
The
Thor:
reviews
Love
are
and
decent,
Thunder. Yeah.
or Thor:
No.
Love and Thunder. But those movies, they're this weird thing where they made a lot of money and all these things, but they're not like well regarded. And
No.
so,
And I think that's the thing too, is like part of me is like the best superhero movies that Marvel has made are just good movies. And if you just take superhero out of it, it's still just a great movie. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I'm like hoping they get back to. And I think now that we're dealing with so many cameos and like things that can honestly get in the way of good plot and good structure and good filmmaking, because we gotta have this character and we gotta have this character and we gotta have this moment. Like I just hope that they just get back to like giving a good director a good script with good actors and giving them plenty of time to make a good movie. And I think I'm dying for more Guardians of the Galaxy ones. I'm dying for more Captain America: Winter Soldier. Like, just this isn't just a good superhero movie. It's just a good movie. You know what I mean? This is a good team up movie. This is a good espionage thriller. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want. And so I'm hoping we get that. And I think we can. I think, what did you say? The Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. I love that Fantastic Four is a period piece. I love that it's set in the 60s. They just have an opportunity to do something different and like kind of just tell a good movie in a different way than we've seen in the MCU. I hope that that's what we get. I think I'm the most nervous about Captain America: Brave New World because it has so much to follow up. Thunderbolts doesn't have a legacy to be held up to, and Fantastic Four does, but those movies are so old and most people didn't love them, and so it doesn't have a lot to do to be better than those. So I'm hopeful. I think it's that weird thing, and if you catch our podcast next week, you'll catch us reviewing The French Connection with Dr. Bruce Hutchinson, and we were talking in that podcast about how it did kind of feel like a palate cleanser coming from Deadpool and Wolverine. That is this movie that is just all about the moments and all about the characters and the actors and that, and kind of the meta-ness to it, versus The French Connection, which is just a film that is not flashy, and really in many ways is not trying to be super complicated at all, and it's just a good filmmaking, good acting, and a really solid idea. And I just think that I want Marvel to get back to that, and I hope they can. I think that was, again, part of the amazingness of early MCU, is that they were both. They found a way to be fun, exciting action superhero movies with really cool CGI and awesome boss battles, but then they also just were good movies. You know what I mean? And like, I'm just hoping we get that. I'm hopeful.
well, yeah. So I think all three of them need to be good, and then based on the comments of the weekend from like some of the actors, it feels like a Brave New World is kind of resetting the tone for the MCU, right? It is going to be the palate cleanser of like, here's kind of what to expect for a little bit for a few movies.
You telling me the universe is going to take itself seriously again? Is that what you're saying?
It's what it feels like. And so I think, and also just nature of those two movies, Captain America and Thunderbolts, they're more military, more espionage, more grounded versus something like Captain Marvel or Thor or Multiverse of Madness. And so I think they have an opportunity to kind of tee up Doomsday in a good way. And then Fantastic Four will be sci-fi, cosmic adventure, yes, but it will be so different than what we've gotten before with its aesthetic and those kind of things that it will be able to separate itself from the pack. But I wanted to I said all that to say, like, they have to win leading up to Doomsday. And I understand people's like vitriol of like, hey, yes, Mads Mikkelsen could have been Dr. Doom. You're 100% right. There's a version where I'm like, I kind of wish that was the case.
Yeah.
But also, it feels like to me they chose Downey. They know going into this decision that they have to nail it.
It's going to look desperate a little bit. Yeah.
They know that a little bit. And so at least I hope. I think
and it's like there is a version where you make it work that like because of RDJ sacrificing himself, there was like multiversal ripples that ended up turning a different Tony Stark into Dr. Doom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or like there's a version of it where you connect it to his sacrifice. And it's not just a randomly we find a new universe and it turns out he looks like him. Or, you know what I mean? Like there's a way to make it feel more meaningful than just...
There's a version where he snapped and like, you know, his face, you know, Dr. Doom's thing is like, one of his things is that, he has a big rivalry with Reed Richards in Fantastic Four.
Right.
And I think he had a hots for Sue Storm. Where like his face gets all fucked up and he puts on a mask to cover it up because he's self-conscious about it.
Sure.
And so there's a version where I don't like this, actually. I don't like this version, but a version where it's like a Tony Stark in a different timeline snapped the fingers and his face gets all messed up like he did in an event game.
Or like he ends up
being, he
didn't die, he went to the void. You know, or limbo or whatever it was. And like, you know, you're right. There is a way to do it where it feels like it could have been the plan all along. It wasn't. We all know it wasn't, but it could have been. And if you're clever enough, you can make it feel organic like that, I think.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that they didn't choose Downey because he's the only actor to play this role. They chose him because there's a narrative reason why they want Tony Stark's face to be Dr. Doom. Well, that's the reason why.
Yes, but I think you could also argue it's a business decision potentially as much as a narrative, and that's the fear is that it's more of a business decision than a narrative.
I think,
one, right?
That it's like a business decision first.
We put him in here. That equals this much money at the box office.
I can see someone coming in there at a whiteboard and like they're all scratching their heads, and someone just writes RDJ. There, I go. What? Like they just kind of like
right. Yes.
I can see that moment, but I think whether the chicken or the egg come first, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a narrative reason as to why this one looks like Tony Stark, and it gives them...
surely they're not just going to just not even acknowledge that. I'm sure they will do something.
I think one of the problems of the multiverse saga is the complexity of the multiverse saga, right? We have sometimes an actor looks like the same character. Like example, there's Knife Pull and Deadpool. They both look like Ryan Reynolds. There's Tom Holland Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. There is, you know what I'm saying? And like there's technically Blade. We haven't gotten Mahershala Ali Blade yet. We've got his voiceover, but we haven't got his face yet. So there's this weird thing of like sometimes look like the same actor, sometimes they don't. And I think that it's going to be also a mechanism for the writer and the directors to help explain the multiverse just a little bit more in the context of these big movies.
Right.
That being said, Robert Downey Jr., when he came out, the thing he said was, new mask, same task. And what did Tony Stark try to do throughout his MCU career? Put a suit of armor around the world.
Yeah.
And I've been saying it for a long time. And if you look at the comics, I always said that Kane Dynasty would probably end with the incursion happening and Dr. Doom coming in last second. Now it's not going to be last second. It's going to be first second of the movie.
Right.
And he's going to say, look, he's going to be like, I am the benevolent God. And in reality, he's narcissistic. He's got all the wrong intentions, but his reasoning is, I am saving the multiverse and I'm going to piece together what's left. And he rules over it, right? And that is Battle World. That's Secret Wars. And so I think that's what
there's a very easy version where it is like he shows up and pretends to be Tony at first.
100%.
And it's to get into position to do what you're saying, like kind of pull off his plan. Because I think you're right, Tony. You know, Von Doom is one that tries to pretend to be more benevolent than he wants to be perceived as a good guy. He doesn't like being perceived as a bad guy. Typically, I feel like
he's a ruler, he's a king,
and he wants to be loved. He wants to be liked. He wants to be adored, and therefore wants to seem good, I guess. And so, you're right. There is a version of this that it's like we're about to end, and then holy shit, the universe just sent Tony Stark back to us to help us figure all this out, and now everything's going to be okay. kind of thing, and then you don't realize until later that was never, or that was Tony Stark, but he's not Tony Stark anymore, or it never was, and he figured out,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, but look at some of the things we've talked about in the past. So there was the thing of like in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where that Kang the Conqueror, would become the Beyonder, right? Which is basically
Right.
what. So it's like he gets sucked into this thing. The Kang dynasty happens with all the Kangs, and then that Kang from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is kind of like the one that puts the Secret War, the
Right.
Battle World together, and is kind of whatever. And the plot that was not leaked but very speculated on was that there would be the bad Kang, and that they would have to find the good
Yeah,
Kang
right.
to
Yeah.
help them fight the bad Kang. So take
Well,
out
and then there was a
Jonathan
lot
Majors'
of rumors
Kang.
that when Kang and Doctor Doom were the same person at one point in the
We're
comics,
the same person,
right?
and in the comics, there's a lot of lineage there too.
Yeah.
But now look at it this way. Okay, it's an easy swap. You have Doctor Doom as Tony Stark variant. Who do you get to stop Tony Stark? You get Tony Stark.
Sure.
So I'm saying, like, there's a version where where Doomsday is they're trying to get another Tony Stark variant or whatever. But I think there's no universe, in my opinion, where we do not see Tony Stark come back in some version as Iron Man to fight against this evil Doomsday or either.
But I guess, but if it is the Tony Stark that snapped, and something happened after the snap that we didn't know about, who becomes Doctor Doom, maybe we don't. Maybe isn't Ironheart still supposed to come out at some point? Like, where did that go? I think I feel like they just stopped talking about that.
Well, I think now, another point I was going to make was, the whole thing of the Disney Plus stuff, like who's going to be in Secret Wars and Doomsday? I don't know if any of these Disney Plus characters, maybe sans Miss Marvel, I doubt even She-Hulk, I doubt they're going to make the jump to the movies. I think Marvel's going to kind of just forget about them.
I feel like Miss Marvel, just because of like the end credit scene to the Marvels, which is like her and going around and recruiting people, right?
I gave her the exception, right? I said that she could. But I'm saying I think
right. I doubt She-Hulk will be there.
It feels like Brave New World Captain America is going to kind of reestablish some of the dynamics of who's around. Thunderbolts will kind of cement that, and then you'll probably have the Thunderbolts team, the Captain America Avengers team, which will probably consist of a few of our legacy characters, and maybe a third team or something that will be in Doomsday. And those three teams will be doing things as they ultimately fail to stop the incursion, right?
Right.
So I think we're going to get very much a similar tee up, like Infinity War. They're going to fail at the end, and the incursion is going to happen, and we're going to end up with Battle World with Doom is sitting on the throne. And I mean, what's going to happen is, and they've confirmed that Fantastic Four is going to be in both movies, right? And so they're in a different universe. They're going to probably, I guarantee Robert Downey Jr. is going to be at least a post-credit scene in the Fantastic Four as Dr. Doom.
I could see that, yeah.
If not already, I think it'd be cool if he's in the movie as like Victor Von Doom. He's in the 60s or whatever. I think that'd be cool.
I don't know. I mean, I did if they didn't cast RDJ, because I think then, I don't know. I don't know if I love the version of RD. I think maybe my least favorite version of how they explain this is that he's just Victor Von Doom with RDJ's face, but he never really is anything to do with Tony Stark. Like he's not Tony Stark at all. He's just a same-faced bad guy. I think that to me feels the most like we're just going to pull this out of our ass to explain it, not going to like connect it to like the dominoes that have been falling already. And I just think that's what I wonder.
Maybe they could obviously they lie all the time to us, but they said Victor Von Doom. Is he a Tony Stark variant who took over that mantle as Victor Von Doom? Is he
right?
I don't know. I mean, it feels like I don't know. Obviously it's the talk of the town right now.
Right. Yeah.
But I think at least Secret Wars will be Reed Richards leading this multiversal team of our favorite legacy characters.
Yeah.
Reed Richards. Pedro Pascal, Reed Richards.
Gosh,
Hugh
I can't
Jackman.
wait for that. He's such a good actor. I cannot wait
He's
for
so good. And
like he's gonna be so good at the like monologue,
emotional
villain. Yeah, like talking
dude.
like trying to plead with someone or like the like serious
reaching
talks.
for someone. Yeah, like reaching for someone in an emotional moment, or like I'm saying, the shit's going down there trying to
nail that, dude.
Oh, dude, he's going to nail. Like if you watch the Comic-Con interviews this weekend of like him and Vanessa Kirby, their chemistry.
They're like holding hands on stage.
It looks like they're fucking dating already.
Yeah,
and it's are you guys dating? Because like you guys are just like the chemistry is there, and I'm so excited for just the actors in that movie. Whether the movie's good or
Yeah.
not, I think they're going to nail the characters at least. But
Yeah.
yes, the movie Secret Wars dream version is we have obviously most of the characters will die at the end of Doomsday. Doomsday will win, and Secret Wars will be Reed Richards, Pedro Pascal, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man. It's going to be your favorite multiversal characters teaming up to stop. Because the idea of Secret Wars Battle World, when Doom makes this new world, no one there knows about all the other shit. There's like a Thor Corps. There's like they're all in service of what's left. They're like they don't know their past lives. Like the Doom is remade reality basically. And like Reed and them, they basically make like a safe boat that helps them transition to that. And so they all remember. They're like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Like our universe has died. And so they're trying to get back and what this all leads to is if people are upset about Victor Von Doom being Tony Stark's face, just know that this is the end of the multiverse saga. And whenever we start, we're rebooting the universe, right? We're going to have a new Tony Stark post Secret Wars. We're going to have a new Doctor Doom post Secret Wars. This is teeing up this now 40 movie saga, and we're ending it, and we're going to get back to more linear storytelling, and we're going to make things simpler and a new jumping off point for new fans. And so don't fret, people. Just trust in the MCU because they've had more hits than misses.
Sure. Yeah. I hope they do it. I'm rooting for them all the way. It's that thing of like there is a little bit of a smell of desperation to the decision, but it's also exciting. And I also like can't wait to see how it works out. Honestly, even if it doesn't work out, everyone's going to be there day one to see it. You know what I mean? Like even if and so like again, it's kind of smart marketing wise. It's kind of smart. Like this gets butts in seats, even if the movie sucks. Just being honest. But I'm hopeful that this is Marvel finally figuring out how to pull their head out of their ass and just get back to what made them who they were. I guess we'll see.
Do you think Feige will? I mean, obviously, this will tee up Secret Wars. Will tee up X-Men. Like we'll start with X-Men, a new Avengers movie, and all these kind of.
So
things.
we're not getting an X-Men before Secret Wars. You don't.
There's no universe.
Even though they're writing it.
No pun intended. They're writing it. Yeah. Okay. I mean, Secret Wars is coming out in 2 years. I mean, or 3 years.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I think it could be
It makes some sense because the whole mutant,
8.
like the whole thing about, I mean, the X-Men are literally an allegory for like racism and like the whole idea of mutants and stuff. And like that kind of needs you don't need a world where there's superheroes everywhere. And then all of a sudden who's mutants? Cause then it's like, it's kind of weird because it's like,
a big plot point was that Kang, when he was making the Sacred Timeline, he removed the X-Men and the Fantastic Four from the Sacred Timeline because all together they could beat him.
Sure.
And we still may get Kang in some form, and not with Jonathan Majors, but I can see Doom coming into the Council of Kangs, played by another actor, and just wrecking them in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could see that happening. It's cleaning house sort of thing.
Well, they posted that, I guess it's like Doctor Doom killing Thanos, maybe like in the comics famously, where he's like, it's like a white Doctor Doom and he just like reaches in and like pulls out his like spinal cord and his skull. And so they're like, they could easily do that.
That's God Doom. That's Doom from Secret Wars.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so he's very benevolent God, right? So anyway, I mean, of course they have to do something to make him seem a bigger threat than Thanos, multiversal threat. I'm excited overall.
Yeah,
I think the MCU feels like it's on the upswing. We will know more. I think the ultimate litmus test, more so than anything else, is Captain America: Brave New World.
Yeah, I think. How if that can get us back on track, especially at a tone level, I think it's got to.
Well, Daniel, how can our listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail and let us know what you thought of Deadpool and Wolverine. And then also, it's been really fun discussing this RDJ news. Let us know what you think of the RDJ news. I agree mostly on the internet. I've just seen people thinking it's not a good decision, calling it desperate, all these kinds of things. But I have seen some people that have their heads on straight that just says, and I think it's true, if it works, it works. If it works, it works, and no one will remember how desperate it seemed. And so what do you think? Do you think it'll work? Let us know at bit.ly/241mail.
And if you can't hit us up at our Bitly, you can always find us in the comment section below, youtube.com/@241studios. Again, it's the best place to consume everything 241 Studios, including Podcast 241. Daniel, I was very excited to talk about Deadpool Wolverine. I think we're going to talk about another hour of just all the jokes and all the fun references and just all the coolness in the movie. I recommend people go and watch it, show your support for the MCU. And I'm very excited to see what happens over the next 3 years as we finally end the multiversal saga and tee up the next phase in the reboot of the MCU.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I'll be there.
Yeah. Also, Superman just finished shooting, and we have a new universe starting next year.
That's big. When is that supposed to connect? Next summer? Is that when that's
July 14th, I think, the day after my birthday.
Another summer superhero films. It feels like summer and superhero movies just feels, and Superman movies just feels like they go together.
We do have a Creature Commando cartoon coming out this fall.
I saw that, and that's like
James Gunn.
Actual first new universe thing. Yeah.
So we have a lot to talk about. Hopefully, Star Wars can jump on the bandwagon as well and start over as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.